Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good.
You can hear me? That's perfect.
Yeah, I can. I was talking to the wall for a moment there, but I had changed my microphone. So, okay. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not totally familiar with Zoom. I tend to use Microsoft Teams and Skype as well. So you will all have to forgive me this morning if I make some schoolboy errors.
Oh, I think it's all pretty much of a muchness, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's yeah, you're right. They're all pretty much they're all quite similar in the end, but it's just because I'm going to be presenting later on. It's just making sure I get things right for you guys.
Are you presenting?
I am, yes. I know it says Matthew on my screen. That just happens to be my son's name, as you. So I don't use Zoom that often, but my name is actually Greg Singh. I'm Just Tip Limited. So I will be presenting later on.
Well, if you right click on your name, if you can see your name in the bottom left-hand corner, then you could just type a new name right over it. So
have a look.
I'm just doing that now, just updating my name. Hello, Austin.
Hello, good morning.
How are you today?
Not too bad, not too bad. How's things your end?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Where are you based, Austin?
Wokingham, sunny Wokingham.
Yeah, it does look sunny from the sun coming in your window there.
Nice, it's nice. You know, we'll have a bit of this. 17 degrees they're forecasting today.
Oh my goodness. Balmy spring day, finally.
I tell you, we've waited a long time. It's like we've waited 2 years for this spring day.
I know, it is. Absolutely, yeah. There's been a long winter this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, it seems to be going on. And in fairness, it'll be an even longer one next winter with the energy prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll all be huddled up under duvets for most of the winter, I think.
I think so. I've been helping a few people out this week with CapEx decisions and, you know, where they can spend a little bit of money right now and save a lot of money on their energy next winter.
That's a good idea. That's absolutely a good idea. So I'd like to just move to a smaller house. My kids are leaving now, so, you know, don't need to heat empty rooms. So I'm going to sell all their stuff as soon as they leave and move to a smaller house. So
that's a good idea. Mine's 9. If I tell him that I'm going to do that, he's not going to like it. So
yeah,
so it's and he's 9 going on, you know, 15, and doesn't realize that his gaming computer uses up more energy than all the light bulbs we have in the whole house.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So.
Leaves his screen on. He just calls it I'm AFK, away from keys, and I say you know I'm going to charge you for your AFK time.
Yeah, you should just pull the plug. I'm sure that wouldn't make him.
That won't go down well. That's it's not going to go down. Hello
everyone. I'm late to my own party by the looks of it.
Well, you've missed your own party. Have you got your Christmas jumper on?
No, it's not Christmas. It's just.
It looks really Christmassy right now, doesn't it? Doesn't Robin look Christmassy?
He does.
He does. Okay, you can't help it.
Well, it's better than just a plain old coloured one, you know. And yeah, how is everybody? I hear you. I assume you were talking about the war and things and.
No, we were talking about energy prices and how CapEx investment now will pay back next in 6 months.
Yeah, everything we can do now to get away from oil and gas and all the rest of it, then you know, and the general electricity as it is coming through from the suppliers can only be good news. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's patriotic too, you know, because if we could reduce our energy consumption by the 5-8% that we buy from Russia, I think it's just one more thing to sting it to them, actually, in my opinion. So
I wonder whether it's all this is sort of trying to force the governments into actually being green. You know, it's almost like a supernatural power there saying, well, if you haven't learned from COVID, let's do something.
Yeah, that's where you're going. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. If you look back in history at the roaring 20s, you know, in 1920s, the 2020s are pretty crap so far.
Mm.
I mean, you know, we're not having it's not going to be called the boring 20s because it's definitely not boring, but there's going to have to be a phrase for it because so far the 20s have not delivered. Remember all those projects that all those businesses had about 2020 vision? They didn't have much vision of this, did they?
I live about a mile from the HS2 line, and there's loads of swampy camps and all sorts going on around here, but there's also a great big banner in between Leamington and Kenilworth that talks about back in HS2 and let's just get on and insulate Britain, and I can't help thinking that that's a blooming good idea.
Yeah. Obviously, good
Because
time to be.
it's not going to help anybody, HS2, apart from those that live in city centres.
No. Most of the northern people say what they want is just a decent railway line between Manchester and Leeds. They just want the inter-town, inter-city trains working correctly, so that things. But
Do trains go that far north? Is that gone?
Not for you, they don't, Austin.
Okay, because I know Brunel was from Bristol, and I never thought he went north. It's crazy.
Trains do, but it costs more to go on a train than it does to go on a plane. So it's
crazy. But I had my insulation redone in the loft last spring, and gone from 10 centimeters to 30 centimeters. Dramatic difference in the way the house heats and I mean, unbelievable difference. So I had anticipated and I'd worked out it was saving me $350 a year, but obviously with the price increases, it's going to be much more significant.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so where people are joining now, we're on the hour, as it were. So thank you for joining, everybody. We were already updating ourselves on the electric supplies and things and how things are going. Obviously a good time for renewable energy and looking for ways to isolate yourself from having to get in electricity supplies and things from the outside world, putting your solar panels and your wind turbines and all that sort of thing. So definitely a good idea these days. How are supply chains going with what's going on? Simon and Austin, you're the guys who are sort of dealing more with supply.
Supply chains are okay, but just prices going one way.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Austin.
Oops.
That's probably because I had nothing extra to say or add. You're right. Its prices are just the ones driving everything. Availability is not too bad because I think that people their mindset is shifting to the fact that they don't expect everything to always be as available as it was, say, 3 years ago. So there's a mindset change. So when people go, we've seen this recently, when people go into a restaurant, to find a dish that's off because there's not a supply is not as big a deal as maybe it was. So people kind of get it. So, but the availability is not too bad, but the pricing is just, that's why you need people like Simon with his profit hound stuff to go in and work out what it is that's driving the prices and what's driving in the dish, as opposed to just thinking about it from, oh, this price has gone up. You know, if you need to give more veg, a different type of veg, do that, you know.
Thank you, Austin. That's a nice introduction.
That's okay. The check will be in the post, I trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's interesting though. I just did a little comparison on food prices for one of the hotels I work with from October, because we took over the hotel in October. We did a food stock and everything. We just did another food stock, compared prices, and on average, the prices had all gone up by at least 25%. Also, all of it. Some have gone up less, some have gone up more.
Yeah.
Surprising ones that were nearly 50% price rise, but
Yeah. You might want to send me that data, Robin, because I don't think they should have gone up 25%. I mean, no, I think, I don't know what you think, Austin, but I track the spend basket for a client of mine that spend £1 million a year, and it's gone up about 8 or 9% since October for them. So yeah, 25 is.
Well, we did take it over from a management company, so may have
okay.
had some pretty good
Rebates.
there, but
Rebates,
yeah.
The curse of the hidden rebates when everybody
the
wants to
scourge.
get on the table.
The scourge we're trying to eradicate.
Ask Revolution Bars, and is it KPMG that just got fined 900K
Saw that.
for not declaring the rebates properly on supply deals, listing fees and supply deals for Revolution Bars. It was just last week. I'll find the article and send it to you. They got the KPMG got done first because they passed their auditing without properly accounting for the rebates and listing fees.
So what, they hadn't put the rebate in? Or...
I don't know the full detail, but I know that they got fined 900K.
Because we've just done a year end for one company, and it was impossible to get any kind of rebate estimation from the supplier that we had. One of these beverage suppliers, you know, they weren't going to, even though it was nearly time for them to actually declare it. It was impossible for them to actually put their any kind of estimate on it. So we couldn't declare that as sort of like a less cost within the year. So yeah. So
Robin, I don't, obviously you're not going to give away details, but that hotel that you were talking about, has their food gross profit margin reduced in line with those food price increases, or have they taken steps to mitigate some of it?
No, we've mitigated it. I mean, they've been running at a very good food cost until just recently, but that's probably because they've just lost the head chef and they're running through. But I did the study because of that, because something had happened. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the food cost, as it, you know, the costs as it were, but it was something else. So up until the end of January, they were running at 26%.
Right. Yeah.
So no, they were doing well. It's just I'd done the study because something's happened, and you know, when these things happen, you have to sort of do all the different possible, work out all the different possible things that could affect it.
Yeah.
Did you say 26%?
It was at 26, yes.
Interestingly enough, just if we were to take a massive step backwards, is 26% a viable percentage in the long term?
Well,
it's a nice number to have, but
yeah.
Is it viable in the long term? See, that's what is the right percentage? I think we're going to have to rethink about what the right percentage is going forward.
No, and normally now for hotels, I do suggest that probably in the low 30s is probably a more realistic cost percentage, with all the price rises and customer reluctance to actually go put the prices up too much. Of course, it'd be interesting to see what happens at the end of this month, when suddenly the either the price will go up or the profit will go down. One of the two. So interesting times ahead.
It's a really difficult question to answer that, about what is a good food margin. And, you know, I've been asked that thousands of times over the years. I mean, it really does depend on the mix of business and the allocations that you give. Sometimes, you know, independent hoteliers in particular will, you know, just allocate the menu price for a dinner, bed and breakfast guest. And then in other instances, they'll be allocating £10 less. So it's very, very difficult to put a number on it. I always think that you have to look at what they have achieved and then have, you know, and then factor in food inflation and whatever else has moved. If the mix has moved from heavy corporate to more leisure, and really have a think about it that way. But you are right, Austin. You know, it's definitely time to rethink things.
Indeed. And talking of rethinking things, have you rethought your website recently? Are you getting the maximum amount of pull out of direct bookings? I've got Dave Kelly here, who's going to tell us a little bit about SEO and how these things work and how it can improve our profitability. I'm just going to make sure he can share his screen. There we go. And over to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Robin. I'm just going to bring up my presentation. And that's a couple of keystrokes here. Right. Can everybody see my slide here?
Yep.
Okay, great. So today I want to talk about how to get seen on Google with SEO and outcompete the OTAs without breaking the bank. So I'm just going to jump right into it at the moment. So I don't need to tell you guys what the problems with the OTAs are. First of all, they do charge some pretty hefty commissions for what they do. And then they use your money to market against you. And they do that by spending heavily on pay-per-click advertising, or PPC, among other things. So if you take a look here, I just put in hotels in Malmesbury, it's a town near me, and you can see that Booking.com has bought the top half of the page, followed by TripAdvisor right after Booking.com. And no hotels in Malmesbury on their own are showing at all. So how do you compete against them? So you compete against them using search engine optimization, or SEO, and the content of your website. So what is SEO? So search engine optimization is the process of enhancing your website so it shows higher up on Google's organic results. So what are the organic results? Organic results are the not paid for listings on Google. So you can see on this page here, it's all organic results on there. There's no little ad mark on here. So Booking.com is not paying for that on there. But why is organic better? Well, organic is better because customers trust organic results more than paid advertising. Another reason is they run indefinitely without payment. So if you're paying for pay-per-click, as soon as you stop paying, you disappear off of the results. And if you focus on SEO, if you focus on SEO on your website's going to improve from the contents and user experience perspective too. So that's an added benefit from where you are. So how do we do it? How do we beat the OTAs? So I'm going to go through each of these areas in detail, but just to highlight, key phrases is where you start. You need to start with what are you going to rank for? Then you have an engaging and unique content targeted to your market. You use your local strengths. You're going to know your area better than the OTAs do to outrank them. Get quality links, particularly local ones, and make sure your website is optimized for performance. So let's kind of dive into these, okay? So key phrases, you might have heard the term keywords, but I don't like keywords because really a phrase is what you're after. Used to be in the olden days, you could just repeat your key phrase 10 times on your homepage and you'll rank. So if you had, for example, hotels in Aberdeen 10 times, now Google penalizes you if you overuse a keyword. So you need to be judicious in how you place your key phrases. On this chart on the right here, this represents the percentage of searches. So if you look at the fat head. That's the key word on its own. So for example, hotels. So you can see there's a lot of competition here for just the word hotels, but it's only 18.5% of all of the searches. Then we have a section here that we call the chunky middle. So the chunky middle is more like hotels in Aberdeen. So it's a bit more specific than hotels, a bit more local, but it's also quite competitive on hotels in Aberdeen. You should be there, but it's not where you should focus all of your effort. What you want to do is you want to focus your effort on the long tail. And these are the more specific key phrases where the OTAs don't compete. So for example, hotels in Aberdeen for whiskey tasting, you're not going to have the competition. And I chose this because I've got an example right here. So I put up here the search in yellow just so, because it's easier to see. So this is a chunky middle, hotels in Aberdeen. And you can see that we start right off the bat with a Booking.com advert, and TripAdvisor. Premier Inn is pretty focused on search and optimization. And then finally, we've got lastminute.com. However, if you're optimizing for hotels for whiskey tasting in Aberdeen, an outstanding independent hotel, the Marcliffe Hotel, pops up first. And the way they did it is they just created a page that on their website that was whiskey tastings at the Marcliffe Hotel. And now they're at the top. If you put whiskey and hotel in Google, you're going to hit their website right here. So one point I want to make here is that people think that Google indexes a website. It doesn't. It indexes individual pages. It doesn't care about the whole website. It only cares about pages. And that's a benefit to you because you can create targeted pages to your keywords. And we'll go into that some more. So how do you target these long tail keywords, as we say? And it's about the content on your site. Before I delve into that, let's talk about the meta description. Meta description is this description underneath your hotel title, your title of your page. And this is a really important part of search engine optimization. It doesn't impact your ranking, but what it does impact is getting people to click onto your website. So this is where you turn your lookers into bookers, okay? So here's an example of a pretty good one. So put in Marriott in Swindon, up pops the Marriott, and what they have put as their meta description is reserve your stay at the Swindon Marriott Hotel. That's okay, we know it's the Marriott already, but what they have here is the hotel is near the city center, stylish, inspired amenities, fitness center. So that's a really good kind of like, okay, I'll click on the Marriott because I'm looking for something stylish with a fitness center. Here's an example of a terrible meta description. I see a lot of these in my travels in hotel SEO. You can see we've got hotels in Bath here, and then we just have random words in the meta description. Nobody's going to look at this and think, I'm going to click on here because it doesn't tell them anything. Notice there's 3 dots at the end. So at the end of this, there may have been a really good inducement, but it's chopped off. And the reason why it's chopped off is Google wants 155 characters. And that's 155 characters at the moment. It changes from time to time. And it will just put 3 dots and chop it off at the end. The other possibility is that this web page had no meta description and Google just chose random words from the page, which also doesn't help you. What I like to recommend is use a phrase that's going to help you outsell the OTAs. So for example, if instead of reserve your stay at the Swindon Marriott Hotel, which is why we're there anyway, you put full free English breakfast only when booked direct, then you can start steering traffic away from the OTAs and direct to your website, or best prices guaranteed or something like that. at our hotel, when we ran our hotel, we had full free English breakfast only when booked direct. And then all our award-winning local food and drink is sourced from our 30-mile food zone in the Cotswolds. So it gives them information and an inducement to click through, all within 155 characters. Content. This is where the magic happens. And you need a content strategy. So at the Priory Inn, where we started all of this, we've put a lot of effort in making our content work for us. And what you can do is first start with a monthly blog. So what are you going to blog about? You blog about things to outrank your competition, so people will come through to your pages. I'll give you some examples. So maybe top 5 reasons to visit the Roman baths if you're in Bath, or 5 trendy new shops in Cheltenham. So if you want to try and target shopping trips, or top 5 things to do with children and family in the Cotswolds, secret coffee places. We did a what's growing in the area for our seasonal food, putting daily specials to have it go straight from possibly from your till system to your website. That actually generated a lot of traffic for us because we described things with the suppliers' names, and we got traffic just from our specials. And of course, a up-to-date supplier list with links out to the suppliers is also really helpful. So just a few tips on developing your content. This is absolutely a critical part of your SEO strategy. So don't just delegate it to your most senior member, your most junior member of staff, and say, throw things up as if it were like a Facebook post. It's not a Facebook post what you're after. You need to have well-written content for the reader, but it needs to be SEO aware at the same time. So the Google robot knows what you're writing about, but your reader wants to read it. You need to publish regularly, as I said. Monthly blog is a good way of doing it. But once you have your content updated regularly on your site, you can reuse it for your social media and have richer social media posts. Use your local strengths. So you need to be ahead of the game on local content. You need to keep your Google My Business or your Google Hotels profile updated with your key phrases. So it's not enough to just put in, that you have beautiful rooms. You need to have those unique key phrases you have about your hotel in your Google My Business. And that's how you're going to start ranking and start getting on the Google Maps, the top of the Google Maps. And this is an interesting one. People have asked me, why is this so important? Everywhere you are on the internet, you need to make sure your name, your address, and your phone number are exactly the same. So in our case, we could have been the Priory Inn, the Priory Inn, but it has to be exactly the same because Google uses that as one of its most important local ranking signals. So if you're on booking.com as the Priory and your website says the Priory Inn, you've got to get them exactly the same or you will not rank. Encourage positive reviews and respond to reviews. Google really likes that. And get links from other reputable local content. And the beauty about local SEO is people who are searching for things locally, they already want to buy. They're not just getting ideas about what they want next summer, but they're thinking about, okay, I want to be in Bath. This is what I'm looking for. So we mentioned links. So in the past, Google, like keyword repeating, it was all about the number of links you have. Now it's about the quality of natural links as well as the number. So you can't have low quality links. So what is a natural link? A natural link is created by another website linking back to you with where they want to use your content or highlight what you're about. So it's not like in the past you could pay for all dubious directories or link farms to link to you, and that'll help you rank. If you do that now, that you'll get penalized for it. In fact, one of the things that we often have to do when we go into new clients is review their backlink profile and then go through the convoluted process on Google to say, please ignore these links. And one of our clients, we had to disavow 1,000 links that somebody a few years ago was a good idea to buy 1,000 links to their website, and was really dragging them down. So how do you get natural links? Well, you ask your suppliers. You can ask businesses or venues we refer to, like golf courses, excursions, and you should really be tracking those links out of your websites to these places. So you could go to them and say, hey, Mr. Golf Course, we sent you 100 links last month. How about you link back to our homepage or something like that? And the local press is a really good source too. So, you know, when you have a good story to tell, local press is always trying to find good local angles of stories. Just send them a quick press release and get them interested in it. And also internal links, those are links are within your website. They're really important Google signals. So for example, if you're writing an article on how to on family-friendly facilities, make sure you link to the room types which are best for families, and then Google will understand that even better. So optimize your website for performance. Mobile first. This is absolutely critical that Google does not care about the desktop anymore. It used to be the desktop screen, the big screen ruled the world. Now for Google, Google wants to look at mobile pages. I got a couple of examples here. This is actually a screenshot from my phone here. And you can see the Lincolnville Motel here. It took me a long time to find them because they were so far down on the Google searches. They're not optimized for mobile. So you can't even figure out how to navigate on them. And Google has certainly penalized them and shot them way down on their on the rankings. If you compare that to the One and Only Resorts, the One and Only Resorts has a really nice sticky book button on top of a beautiful image that gets you pulled in right away. It's got a good use of white space. And I like the play video button because then you can get a video tour of like nice music if you wanted to do that. And if you scroll down, the content, the textual content is really good and really targeted. The content, the actual words and pictures and videos should be the same for both the desktop and the mobile site. But the layout shouldn't be the same because you need to lay out for the size of the mobile screen. And performance is absolutely critical because Google will look at how your mobile is performing to rank you. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in a moment. Got another tip for you here. When your designers are showing you your brand new website, they'll always want to start with a really large screen because it looks more impressive. Make them start with the mobile. Get it on a mobile and look at the mobile first, because that's how Google and the majority of your customers are going to look at your content. Then look at the desktop. So back onto performance and page experience, or what's often called technical SEO. We talked about mobile friendliness. Google also checks your pages to see how safe and secure they are. And that's another thing when we go into clients, we often have to say, you're not going to rank because you've got some dodgy code in your website. And that's what we try and do, is sort out the dodgy code. Pop-ups, nobody likes pop-ups, but in particular, Google doesn't like them. So if you need to use pop-ups, they need to be very carefully used. Now let's talk about images. Images is the most serious cause of slow websites, and often the thing that we need to attack first. Generally, what happens is people find nice images which are shot on high resolution, and then they just plunk it into their website. And you can imagine if you have a big high resolution image and you try and show it on a mobile, it makes the page load for ages. not only the size, but the type and format is important. So Google has a new preference of the format that it likes, which also makes it more responsive to smaller screens. And that's called WebP. You also have opportunities with images to use your keywords. Behind every image is some text in the code that describes what the image is about. So if you use your keywords in there judiciously and also describe the image, then you're starting to build a profile of what the article or the page is about, so Google can rank you better. Same with file names. File names can include your key phrases too. Overall, Google uses what's called core web vitals to measure the performance of your site. It's got loading, user interaction, stability of elements, and that's where you need to focus your effort to make sure your site is loading. So let's talk about some quick wins that you can achieve today. First of all, don't be overwhelmed by this list. I know as hoteliers, time is the greatest challenge, but you can make really good progress without a massive budget. And we're happy to help, of course. First thing you need to do is you need to make a key phrase list that's going to rank with your content. Then create your content. You create your blogs, look at your existing pages, make sure the copy of your pages are, make sure they're snappy and they actually conclude your keywords. Optimize your images the way that I said we were going to do before, and update your tags. That was that meta tag that we talked about, but titles and headers, they're also very important. And make sure your Google My Business profile is complete and accurate with really good key phrases. So, what questions can I answer for you? Does anybody have any SEO challenges? How are we all ranking?
Anybody?
Hi, Dave. I've got a question for you.
Sure.
What do you think of Google Lighthouse? Do you think it's worth people just having a little look and realizing quite how slow their websites can be in real life?
Lighthouse is kind of a secondary tool. The first place you want to go to is Google Search Console, because that's where Google is going to summarize your the core web vitals that we talked about. And also, it's a little bit easier to understand than Lighthouse. But if you find that Google says, "Hey, you've got an issue on this page," and you want to delve deeper and find out, well, what exactly is that issue? That's when you click through to Google Lighthouse, and you'll get more information. But it'll be at a higher technical level than Google Search Console, which is already slightly high on the technical side too. There are other websites that do similar things to Lighthouse, but the key thing is Google Search Console is the information that Google uses directly to rank your site.
Dave, Caroline Cooper said, can you repeat the name of the photo format Google prefers?
Sure, WebP. So that's W-E-B like Bravo, P like Papa. So WebP. And the good thing about WebP, it's easier to make it responsive. So you can make the photo large and detailed for big screens, and it can also squish down without losing resolution when it goes onto the mobile phone.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions for Dave? Anything they'd like to know about SEO or websites?
Would you use anyone else other than Google?
That's a really good question. So there's the main search engines, Google, Bing, Yahoo, etc. The most important issue is that Google has more than 85% of the market share, and they're the leader. So if you optimize for Google, then you're by default optimizing for the rest. So our recommendation is think Google first. Then there are some nuances for Bing, for example, or DuckDuckGo. And if you're fully optimized for Google and you want to squeeze that last drop out of the lemon, then you could start looking at Bing, DuckDuckGo, Yandex, etc. But your efforts to focusing on Google is going to pay off really large. And in particular, because Google has Google Hotels, which is where you're going to really want to compete, and DuckDuckGo doesn't, and Bing kind of sort of does, Google is where you really want to focus. I mean, I'm not opposed to the other one. My main search engine when I'm not working is DuckDuckGo, because I think it's a pretty good search engine. But I know that the market is all about Google.
Probably not help for hotels. I always wonder whether there's anything. My problem with my website is actually it's very rare that anybody looks for the service that I offer. So I kind of leave the website aside just as a reference if somebody contacts me.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your sales and marketing style, but I bet, Robin, if you put a little effort into it, I mean, hotel finance is probably searched more than you thought, or hotel accounting is probably searched more than you thought. What I'll do is I'll do a little research for you after this, and I'll shoot you some keywords that I know could make your website probably rank a little bit better. So
Thanks.
I'll give you that for a freebie. Actually, I'll do that for anybody. If you shoot me an email, I'll have a quick gander at where you're standing with keywords, run some of our tools on it, and just give you a quick, okay, here's 2 or 3 key things that I found. Anything else? Well, thank you very much. I'll provide a copy of my slides for you so that you can take a look at it, and feel free to give me a call or shoot me that email, as I said. I will stop sharing.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear what we can do about with our websites, and it's often considered almost like a sort of like a complicated science, but you explained it very well, all the different bits and pieces, and it'd be interesting to see, going back to some websites and just seeing how much of that is actually working in some hotel sites that I've seen. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. I'd like to introduce Greg Singh now. I've spoken with Greg over the years of during COVID. He commented an idea to me back a couple of years as COVID was entering, and I've always thought it was an excellent idea, and finally they've got it up and running. So I'd like to hand over to him so he can explain a bit about what they're doing over there.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you this morning about Just Tip. I'll just screen share with you, and forgive me, I am new to Zoom, so if I make an error, I'll hopefully resolve it. Can you just confirm that you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Fantastic. So, who are we? We are Just Tip Limited, and as Robin said, came up with an idea a few years ago, and was running it by Robin and a few other people that he kindly introduced me to, and that was in our pre-development days, our market research days. And basically, what are we? Just Tip is a free to business, seamless, easy to use digital tipping platform. Basically, we created it because we were very aware that we're moving towards a cashless society, whether we like it or not. And there are, in fact, sorry, just before I continue, Robin, is there a way that I can actually take the images, everybody's image off the screen, because it actually goes across my slides, or I'll have to reduce it down to?
It's not really. I kind of just, yeah, it's a bit of a
Yeah.
If you go through it like that, then the fact everybody can have the images over to one side and you can still see the content, as it were, I guess.
Yeah, I can see most of it. It's just literally where everybody's images, it sort of goes across my screen a little bit, but I'll run with it, and I'm sure I can fill the words in underneath that I can't see, so please forgive me. But as I said, we are moving towards becoming a cashless society, and 80% of tips that are currently given are actually given by card, and we're looking to maximize the tipping opportunities for staff. I myself have been in restaurants, hotels where I wanted to give a tip but actually didn't have the cash with me, and which can be quite embarrassing. And with our system, that eradicates that issue. It also provides an opportunity to boost salaries for the staff, because our Just Tip will increase the volume and also the value of tips. And the reason it increases the values of tips because we don't allow small change tips. So there won't be any tips that will be below the value of a pound. And you may or may not be aware, but back in the 2019 Queen's speech, it was introduced into the speech that it will come into law that 100% of tips received by staff, by companies as well, must all go to the members of staff. And that is expected to be in the future employment bill, which at the moment is scheduled to come out this year. But obviously with everything else going on, that might slip a little bit. But it is going to be embedded, enshrined in law. Now, you don't need me to tell you about the impacts of COVID-19, the cost of living, and the negative impact that it is having on the hotel and hospitality industries, and obviously an impact on the revenue and the salaries as well. Now, we believe that by increasing the volume and value of tips that staff will receive, that should also assist in recruitment and the retention of staff, because if you're able to boost their salaries through increased tips, then hopefully that will enable organisations like your own or hotels to retain their staff. Now, Just Tip is web-based. We haven't gone down the app route, and that's mainly because we're conscious of the fact that a lot of people are actually getting fed up of downloading lots and lots of apps to their phone. So our system is a web-based system. It can be used by individuals or by companies if they're running a trunk system. I'm sure most of you will be aware of what the trunk system is, so it can be used either or. And here's just a few statistics from a YouGov survey back in June 2020, and where the population of Britain at the time was 67.22. And their survey showed that 95% of Brits were prepared to give tips. So if you extrapolate that across, that's 63.9 million people that are prepared to tip. 53% of the Brits prefer to give a personal tip opposed to paying gratuity. So in other words, most people would prefer to give that tip directly to the individual rather than having it added to their bill. And as it says on the next note as well, that 64% of Brits are not confident that tips added to bills go to staff. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will already be aware of that kind of information. And there's just a couple of other bits there about the numbers that will prepare to tip in London and in Scotland as well. Now, how does Just Tip work? All that an individual or a company needs to do is visit the website justtip.io and register there. An individual member of staff, once registering, would immediately be issued with their personal QR code, and that is linked to their personal bank account, or if it was a company running a trunk system, it would be linked to the business bank account. So to receive a tip, all they need to do then is present their QR code to their customer, and that's it. Now, I'll go through how that works in a couple of slides' time. So the next piece of information, that gives you an idea of what that member of staff will receive after fees and commission have been taken away, because I mentioned right at the start and probably rushed through it a little bit, but this is free to business. So we do not charge businesses to use this platform, to use our service at all. and just a small percentage is taken off the tip, which then is transferred across to the individual or to the trunk system. So, as I mentioned, all the customer needs to do is scan the QR code. So they open up their camera with their mobile device, that could be a phone or even a tablet, scan the QR code, then it takes them immediately to our website. They enter the amount they wish to tip. If it's their first time of visiting, they will be prompted to register, but after that, they don't have to register again. When they use the system again to make another tip, it will just again immediately take them to the website. It will only show them the box to enter their amount, or there are some pre-selected figures there as well. They enter the amount, hit send, and that's it. That's as easy as it is. And that's it, just sort of in picture form. Scan the QR code, choose the amount, send, and the payment is transferred immediately. So here are just some of the benefits that we believe Just Tip can offer business and also staff. We've talked about increasing salaries or increasing the amount of tips. So that in itself, we would expect would improve staff motivation, their well-being, and as I touched on earlier, retention as well. And in these uncertain times, making it easier for staff to greatly increase their tips makes good financial and business sense. As we said earlier, or I said earlier, we are moving towards becoming a cashless society. So this gives the staff a greater opportunity to receive tips. Highly motivated staff will provide better customer service, which equates to more satisfied customers. I know I'm teaching you to suck eggs here. More satisfied customers equates to repeat business and an increase in turnover. So benefits to staff. Now, increasing tip size. So as I mentioned, no small change tips. Increasing tip volume, because there's no excuse for somebody not to be able to tip, because most people carry or today have a smartphone or a tablet. And the beauty of it is, even if they scan the QR code, they don't have to give the tip there and then. If they don't want to, they could leave it, wait until they get home, and then enter the tip later. Improve motivation to work harder for more tips, increase in the salary. We've touched on this already. And also in today's world, yeah, there are a lot of people who are reluctant to handle cash in the COVID-19 situation. So I know myself, I've been given change on just a couple of occasions, because I don't carry cash much now. And when I got that change home, I actually cleaned it. So hopefully I'm not the only one who's a bit like that, but I'm sure there are others who would do something similar. And that's what it actually looks like on the phone. And if you wanted to, if anyone's got their mobile phone with them, feel free. That QR code there, you can literally scan that with your phone, and it will open it up straight into the website. I'll leave it on there just for a few seconds if somebody wants to try it out. Okay. And if anyone would like to talk about it or discuss it, those are my contact details there. I think you're recording this anyway, Robin, aren't you? But I can. I'll also give Robin this presentation, so he's got these slides if he needs them. That's it from me. Short and sweet. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
It was interesting for me. I wanted to sort of present it as well, because it's not just it's not just the frontline staff either here. You know, you could have your staff, like your housekeepers, could have their own code on a badge on their uniform or something.
Absolutely.
You know, tip me sort of thing. Or, you know, I often find that, I am a bit reluctant sometimes to tip on a restaurant bill with a credit card, because I'm not quite sure whether they're going to actually get the tip. And also my mind went racing when I saw this, because I thought of lots of other uses for it. I even sort of thought, well, if you're the big issue guys, you know, selling their they must be having some real tough times now trying to sell their big issue brochures and stuff because the people don't carry cash. Whereas, yeah, with this system, they would automatically get the payment with a credit card going through. So it's a way, you know, if you open up your mind to it, there's a lot of ways this could actually be used within a business to sort of take payments for things as well. So yeah, it's
you're absolutely right, Robin. We're already doing that ourselves, looking elsewhere, because it's a platform that we built here, and yes, with this particular model, we're utilizing it for tips, but there are other areas. We're speaking to clearly I can't go into names, but a large car manufacturer who are looking to utilize it for the purchase of cars. Only had a conversation last night to a company in Santa Barbara, California, who are developing a new type of cash register. They're looking to incorporate it into their system. So there's lots. I mean, you said this to me 2.5, 3 years ago, Robin, that you could already see other ways of using it, and you were right then, and you're still right today. There's lots of other areas that this will be incorporated into, and we're already working on a second project, which unfortunately I can't go into too much detail about, but it's sports orientated, and it's using exactly the same platform. It will just be rebranded.
John Paul has asked about the tax implications. Now, I understand it'd probably be treated a bit like cash tips, which rather than, because basically, yes, if you put tips through the payroll, they have to be taxed. It's probably a bit of a grey area, but it's probably sort of like something whereby the staff would sort of like almost avoid that. Would you think?
Yeah, I mean, it clearly, because it's an electronic way of tipping, but it's still money. So if the tips are being received by an individual, the responsibility is still for them to declare that for tax. I know that there's a lot of companies who use trunk masters so they can avoid paying VAT, which is obviously a sensible thing to do. They can still do that with this system, because it would then just be a company QR code that was issued. So all the staff would have the same QR code. So it would go into the trunk, and then would be divided up by the trunk master. You can have a trunk master within the hotel who's independent and would be able to run the trunk, or, as I'm sure a lot of you know, there are companies out there like Data Plan Payroll who also act as trunk masters. So there's lots of opportunities to or various ways to use it. We don't dictate how it's used. It's down to the companies if they want individuals to collect their own tips, or if they want to run a trunk system. Totally down to the individual organization.
I suppose in one way, actually, having something like this takes the burden off the employer, because having taken that money on their behalf, there's always a political question there as to who gets what. And I know in the past, a lot of these trunk systems have been a lot of sort of like, where, you know, people complain whether this one should get it, this one should get it. So almost giving that ability to sort of like just them to take their tips independently, and people can still do it with a credit card, almost kind of takes a bit of that pressure away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also we're looking into it, and I'd have to speak to the techies behind this. But I think, you know, if let's say, for example, a hotel wanted to divide it up, so let's say the chef got, I don't know, 30% of the tips, and somebody, the other staff, say waiting staff, got 20%. They could actually arrange it how they wanted to. So that flexibility can be built into the system as well.
Yeah, Aidan's pointed out that the staff theoretically have to do a self-assessment, but as he says, I don't think many people do. So
I think Aidan's right.
So it's almost a way of kind of people getting those tips without that. Although I've not said anything myself about that, but
No, I mean, even if it was cash, the responsibility is still on that individual. So it doesn't change that responsibility. It really is it's just replacing cash. That's it. That's all it does.
Yeah.
You're going to actively encourage people who are serving on the floor to have their mobile phone on their person, where some establishments do not want that to happen.
No, Cameron, because it's not. They don't need the mobile phone. The staff don't need a mobile phone. They can have a QR code printed on a badge or on the paper or whatever. It doesn't need the actual client, the actual member of staff to have a mobile phone.
No, you're right, Robin. The mobile phone is only for the person paying the tip. So the QR code could be printed. It could be on a coaster, on a glass coaster. It could be on the menus, hotels. It could be in that sort of, I don't know what you call it, but the package that's in the room with all the information. There could be a QR code in there or explaining how tipping works in the hotel. But the staff don't need to carry a mobile phone with them. No.
Anybody else got any other questions? No.
No.
Right.
Lovely. Thank you, Robin. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Anybody else got any other final comments for the day? We're coming up to the hour now. I hope you've all enjoyed the presentations and enjoyed the conversation. Okay. Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Speak to you again in a month's time, hopefully, when we'll have something new and interesting to talk about, to present, and by then we'll be seeing what the effects of the EVAT rise is probably bringing to the industry as well. Okay.
Lovely. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Robin, for the opportunity. It was really good. I actually got a couple of people in the chat who want to talk, so that's great. So I'm very grateful for that. And it was really interesting. So I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank you.
I'll send you a little bit about your website too.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.